Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Nowak, and I'm going to take a moment to teach you the history of eclipses. I'm with several classmates, 11 people, and so you might hear or see their voice. But what I'd like to do is show you eclipses. So historically, eclipses started a long time ago, and if anybody has a question, please feel free to ask that question. The top picture, is that a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse? Take a guess. And that would be, so you see the outer part right here. This is sunlight, and the moon has lined up exactly. So the top picture would be a total solar eclipse. Now, this is a picture of the moon, right? And notice part of the moon is being blocked. So this would be called a partial lunar eclipse. Why is it being blocked? That's the Earth's shadow right here. So you've heard of maybe the Flat Earth Society, right? The Flat Earth people believe that the Earth is completely flat.
Yes.
Well, the first time people saw this eclipse, they realized that there was a round shadow being presented on the moon. And so they came to the conclusion, the Earth indeed is round because of the shadow put on the moon. So culturally speaking, think about this. We have so much technology. What if we didn't have that technology? What would we think about eclipses? So that's the question. What did people do when they saw the first solar eclipse? So this is a picture of the sun in the background. Blocking the sun is a moon. The moon is blocking. What did they think? And how did they try to figure it out? Well, it was a very scary time. The ancient Chinese people, culturally, they believe in dragons. And so they felt that a dragon was actually eating the sun. So what did they do? They started banging their pots and pans. They started trying to make as much noise as possible, whatever it takes to make that sun stop being eaten. Kind of a crazy thought. Okay. Then you've heard of this guy named Christopher Columbus. And Christopher Columbus was a very not nice guy. So you've heard of Columbus, and Christopher Columbus sailed what year?
1492.
I heard it, 1492. Sailed the ocean blue in 1492. Now, what we have to think about is Christopher Columbus had old technology. His boats weren't made of iron, they were made of wood. And when you keep wood in the water for a long time, it starts to have problems, right? Makes sense. Well, there happen to be these animals. They're actually a clam organism, but you see in these pictures these animals that are they actually live and eat in wood that is old, and they actually start drilling holes. You can see in the picture here how big these holes actually can be. So Christopher Columbus, he had 3 boats, and after some long period of time on his last journey, his boat started failing and he was in trouble. His last journey was a place called Africa, which you may have heard of before, and that's where he kind of got stuck because his boat started to sink. They were wearing out. So here's a picture of somebody drawing Christopher Columbus, the guy in the middle, and these were the natives at that time that lived there. And you can see in the background the boats are sunk. You can also see in the background the religious symbol. So as Christopher Columbus traveled to these foreign countries, and what was he looking for actually? Why did he want to go to these different countries? Hopefully you thought of the word. He wanted spices. He was looking for spices. That was what he was trying to trade. As he went to these new places, you can see that they're offering things. And so at this point, you can see that the people very much welcomed Christopher Columbus. They were very acceptable and giving to him. So what we don't know then is over time, Christopher Columbus started taking advantage of these people. The story goes that he started raping the women and started stealing from the people there. And so at that point, people didn't really like Christopher Columbus. So they started capturing him. They started saying, Christopher Columbus, we are not going to help you anymore. Okay, so Christopher Columbus was stuck now. He had no way to get back. He had no source of help. And so he was smart, though. Not a good guy, but he was smart. And he knew of this thing called an almanac. And maybe you've heard of the Farmer's Almanac. Everything in the solar system is predictable. Months are predictable. The moon phases every 28 days. We're rounding off, of course, 27 point whatever days. The moon phases occur predictable. Everything in the universe is predictable in pattern, and scientists have figured that out, and they put it in an almanac. So the crazy story goes like this. Christopher Columbus was stranded. He needed help. He had no way of getting help other than these people. And so he made up this story. He said to the people, if you don't help me, then I am going to tell my God to make the moon bleed. And that sounds really extreme, right? And this is way early in history. So the science wasn't there. And so he did that. He got in a tent, the story goes. He got in a tent and he started praying, my God, please give me the power. Let these people know that if they don't help me, you are going to make the moon bleed and the end of the world will come. And so that's exactly what happened. Christopher Columbus knew that a lunar eclipse was happening. And during a lunar eclipse, the moon will actually start changing color because of the Earth's shadow will bend the light. So the moon, as you see it here in this picture, it actually started getting red. And that freaked out the people that lived in Africa. And so what did they do? They immediately said, oh, Columbus, we will do whatever it takes to help you, right? And you know, he was just being smart. And so they ended up letting go of Christopher Columbus and saying, whatever it takes, we will help you and we will get you off this land. And that's kind of the story of Christopher Columbus and how he took advantage of the people there. All right, so I want to go over some things. Do you have any questions?
Wait, is it waxing that grows or shrinks?
So waxing is white on right. Waxing means growing. So what you see here is you see a picture, and we might be opposite image, I've just learned, but the moon is coming in front of the sun, and then the moon is leaving. So what we're really not is looking at the moon. We're really looking at the sun. And then the moon is going, I'm sorry, now I'm misspeaking. I'm sorry. So this would be a picture. Oh, that's a good question. I think I've confused my story. In this story, this would be the moon, the whiter, and the shadow would be this of the Earth, and it's kind of passing away. Excuse me, I misspoke.
So the waxing would grow?
So the waxing would grow, yeah. So in reality, please look at the moon phase. What moon phase is this? Full moon, and the Earth got in front of the moon, leaving a shadow, and everything goes counterclockwise. So that shadow of the Earth, which is indicated by the dark, is going to go leftward away, and then you'll go back to that full moon. Any other questions? All right, I'd like to continue then. And so explain how the moon's orbit's tilt is significant to the eclipses. Well, this is one of your fusion assignments. The moon is tilted at a 4 to 5% tilt. So I don't know if you remember this. When we were doing our moon phases with our lunar lollipops, we'd always make sure that the moon went up and then down. So this occasional tilt is the reason why we don't always see eclipses, but occasionally the tilt will, there will be occasional lineup from that. And we saw that also in Bill Nye. Okay, so solar and lunar eclipses is what I want to talk about. Eclipses, the sun is the only major source of light in our solar system. Everything else casts a shadow. So we always have shadows on every solid object. And that one day in class, I asked you to draw all of the moons from space, and everything would have been shaded appropriately so that it's shaded towards the sun. The lighter part is on the sun side. Okay, so in a lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow lands on the moon. Here is a lunar eclipse. What moon phase would this be if this is the sun? You would say a full moon. Full. A solar eclipse. Solar eclipse means you can't see the sun. Well, if I'm standing on Earth and I can't see the sun, what moon must that be? It must be
New moon.
New
all right.
moon.
Question to you all. Lunar eclipse, up top diagram. Who sees a lunar eclipse? Nighttime side of Earth or daytime side of Earth?
Nighttime.
Absolutely. Solar eclipse. Who sees the solar eclipse? Nighttime side of the Earth or daytime side of the Earth?
Daytime.
Morning.
Or just daytime. Actually, if we want to be really technical, morning would be right here. This would be sunrise. This would be noon. This would be sunset. According to this drawing, these people would see it at noon, but that's not always the case. Okay, let's think of the entire Earth and all of the Earth. Let's think mathematically. This entire Earth and all the people on the Earth would be 100%. So what percent of the Earth would be able to see a lunar eclipse?
50%.
Absolutely, 50%. Now, this is a solar eclipse right here. And what percent of the Earth would actually be able to see a solar eclipse?
10%.
You know, I don't really know that answer, 8%, 10%. But what the point is here, that is a solar eclipse is much more rare than a lunar eclipse because, anybody?
Because the moon
Smaller.
goes on a tilted orbit.
But that doesn't tell me why we'd see the lunar, that doesn't tell me yet why. We have to look at the shadow size, right? So which would we see less of, a lunar eclipse or solar eclipse?
A solar eclipse.
It would be a solar eclipse because
It's a smaller shadow
why is the shadow smaller?
because it's reflecting off the moon, and the moon's smaller than the Earth.
Okay, so it's not reflecting. We have to be careful with the Earth. Reflecting means the light would bounce the moon and hit back off. The moon is 1/4 the time of the Earth. So because the moon is smaller, the shadow is smaller. Here, the Earth is bigger, so the shadow is bigger. So let's review. Lunar eclipse, top diagram. What moon phase is this? Here's the sun.
OG Foundation.
So here's the sun. Here's the moon. What moon phase?
Full.
Good, full moon. How much percent of the Earth can see a lunar eclipse?
50%.
Why is that shadow so large?
Because the Earth is bigger than the moon.
Absolutely. This is a solar eclipse. What moon phase is this?
New moon.
Why is the shadow so small?
Because the moon is smaller than the Earth.
Will you more likely say a lunar eclipse or a solar
Tiny.
eclipse?
Lunar eclipse.
Because half of the Earth is able to see it. Who sees the lunar eclipse, daytime side or nighttime side?
Night.
Who sees the solar eclipse, daytime side or nighttime side?
Day.
Do you have any questions?
Day.
That's all. That's eclipses. And that's at minimum what I need you to know. Now the file I'm sharing with you is old, and I'm sorry you've typed in a ton of comments, and I haven't been able to see them as we've gone. I'll go back and look at those. But that's it. That's where we are. So a quick review of lunar eclipses. Do you have any additional questions?
Is my microphone better?
Yeah, it is better. Absolutely.
Is your computer fan off?
So what'd you do to make it better?
I switched to my phone.
Yeah. Okay. All
You
right.
see, phones don't have big fans.
That could be, Ben. You're right. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop recording here. If I can figure out how to.
It's like putting my microphone right next to my heater.